Loading video. Okay, we're good.
That's good.
And we're back. Sorry for any problems. This will be a new video for everyone watching
Read
later.
speed.
Once we're famous.
It's true. Yes, in 4 years' time, when something's happened, and we're internet
The Mustang's
famous.
engine started to rev higher. It was incredibly loud, so much so it could be heard 4 stories up. Half the people in Finn's office immediately rushed to the windows to see what was making the racket. Down in the supercar, Julie was mystified, as always. "What are you doing?" she asked Toby as he continued revving the engine with ear-splitting results. "Just keeping the engine hot," he replied. She looked around them, the crowded streets, the crowded sidewalks. Everyone was looking at them. "Do you really want to be attracting so much attention?" she asked him. "You are on the run from the law, you know." Toby didn't reply. He just smiled mischievously. A moment later, the Detroit police cruiser pulled up next to the Mustang. The officer inside rolled down his window and yelled over to Toby. "This your car, son?" the officer asked. "Are you crazy?" Toby yelled back at him. "This is a one-of-a-kind car. Do you know how expensive it is?" The cop straightened up in his seat. He didn't need this so early in the morning. He immediately tagged Toby as being a problem. "Why don't you pull it around the corner?" he told Toby. "We can have a talk." But Toby ignored his request. Instead, he yelled back, "Did you see how fast I was going?" he asked the cop. "It was like 160 miles per hour on that off-ramp back there. Insane. You gotta drive this car." While this was happening, Toby was secretly taping himself and Julia on his iPad. "I'm sorry, officer," Julia yelled over to the cop. "I think my boyfriend is just showing off to impress me." The cop was growing increasingly exasperated. "Just pull it around the corner," he yelled back. Toby rolled up the window. "Boyfriend?" he said to Julia. "I'm just trying to keep us out of jail," she replied seriously. "If it's getting too hot for you," he told her, "you should probably get out now." "Are you kidding?" she exclaimed. "This is my car." "It's Ingram's car," Toby corrected her. "And by the way, you may want to fix your hair." "From a mugshot, you mean?" she asked. Toby tapped the iPad, switching the POV to film what was happening through the windshield. "No," he finally replied, "but I am about to make you famous." Finn was watching this from the 4th-floor office window, wondering what the hell was going on. It was almost magical to see the Shelby Mustang again, and he had no doubt who was behind the wheel. But what was Toby up to? Joe was still on the phone with him. "That's not exactly the part I want you to see," Joe told him, "but just watch how the car leans when it pulls away from the cop." Not a moment later, the Mustang screamed away from the curb. It took off with so much force it was going sideways. There was a storm of smoke and dust and lots of ear-splitting decibels. In dBs, by the way. It says dBs. Because can't be bothered to actually write out a word.
He actually says ear-splitting DBs.
Yeah.
My word. Okay. Well done.
The lights on top of the police car came to life. With the siren wailing, it was instantly off in pursuit of the Mustang, and suddenly, Finn was enjoying the little drama 4 stories below. "Wow, that Mustang is loose, man," he said to Joe Peck. He was seeing what the Shelby could do for the first time. "I know," Joe replied, "and if Toby runs that setup at the De Leon, well..." "He's in the race, you mean?" Finn interrupted. "He's about to be," Joe replied, a little mysteriously. "What the hell does that mean?" Finn wanted to know. "It means he's about to be," Joe said again. Finn's phone clicked. "Gotta go," he told Joe. "Toby's calling." Finn clicked over to answer Toby's call. While Toby was, at the moment, driving the Mustang around in a loud, noisy circle, cop car behind him, sirens screaming, trying to chase him, he was somehow able to talk. "I need you, buddy," he yelled to Finn over the commotion. But Finn stayed silent as he watched the cop car chase the Mustang around and around. Toby continued. "Finn, brother," he said, "I know you're there. Okay, I'll do the talking. I get why you left. It got nuts. It got nuts for all of us. But right now we're doing something really stupid, and we really need you. It's not Marshall Motors without you." Finn took a deep breath and thought long and hard about what Toby was telling him. Finally, he hung up the phone and said to himself, "This is a big mistake." Then he walked to the elevator, pushed the down button, and began taking off his clothes. People in the cubicles nearby stood to watch him. First, Finn removed his shirt and folded it neatly, revealing his bony, bare chest. More people in his office took notice. Then he took off his pants and folded them along with the shirt. Then came the boxers, and just like that, except for his socks, Finn was naked. He waited calmly for the elevator. It arrived with a loud ding. Then when he turned back to his coworkers and said, "Have a nice day," the door somehow opened to reveal the car was crowded. The door elevator opened to reveal the car was crowded. Somehow Finn managed to squeeze in. The passengers were horrified, but no one said a word. Finn found himself standing next to an older, smaller woman. "My friend is running the fastest Mustang in the world at the De Leon race on Sunday," he told her. The woman smiled at him and said, "I'm in accounting." "But don't you feel like you're dying inside?" Finn asked her. She didn't stop smiling. "Yes," she replied. "Yes, I do." She glanced down at his nether regions and frowned. A frightened turtle came to mind. Finn was immediately defensive. Hey, it's cold in here, he said. A moment later, the elevator door opened into the lobby. Joe Peck was waiting there. He saw Finn walk out of the elevator nude except for his socks. Joe couldn't believe it. No freaking way, he exclaimed. Where's the beast? Finn asked him nonchalantly. On the street, Joe replied. Come on, we gotta roll. Joe hustled Finn through the lobby. Many eyes were falling on them, though mostly on Finn. One woman took out her phone and made a hasty call. A guy in a suit applauded and started snapping pictures. Why'd you nude it up? Joe asked his friends. Finn just shrugged. I figured if I got balls out naked in front of all my coworkers, I'd be too embarrassed to ever go back. So you just left your clothes up there? Joe asked him. Yeah, Finn replied, along with my dignity. I feel like this does not play in written form.
One, it doesn't play on written form. Two, for the pornographic detail spent on the cars in this fucking book, you'd think when actual genitalia got involved, he'd be, he wouldn't rush through it. But
God, no, that would be the worst.
Yeah, it would be the worst, but this book is already the worst. No,
Meanwhile, Toby is driving very hard and fast and no longer going around in circles. He was screaming through the crowded streets of Detroit, making a lot of noise and getting a lot of attention. Luckily, he was at his best in these kinds of situations, checking mirrors, effortlessly shifting up and down, laying on the gas, using the brakes only when absolutely necessary. That's just driving. You just describe driving. Like, you don't want to ride the brakes, that's bad for the car. It's not that hard. You check your mirrors, you shift up and down, if you have a manual, I guess. Most people don't.
It's just how to drive.
A second police car joined the chase. This only added to the excitement. Then came positive news from Joe Puck. I've got the package, Toby heard Joe say over the iPhone, and we're out the back door. That's great news, Toby replied. We've only got 28 hours to get to Cali. That's when Julie spotted something above them. It was a helicopter with WLTV Channel 4 emblazoned on the side. It went right up over the top of the speeding Mustang. I'm afraid we've got company, she said. Toby's phone rang an instant later. He answered it to hear an unexpected but familiar voice. WLTV Channel 4 News with the question for Toby Marshall, the voice crackled. On a scale of 1 to 10, how crazy hot is your passenger? Toby and Julia looked over at the helicopter, which was now flying almost level with the Mustang. To their surprise, they saw Benny saluting them from the cockpit. Like my new ride? Benny asked. Bitchin', right? Toby couldn't believe it, and neither could Julia. What happened to the Cessna? Toby asked him. They have flight restrictions over the city, bro, Benny replied. Set to borrow my buddy's little whirlybird. Toby expertly drifted the Mustang into a right-hand turn and zoomed into an alleyway. The cops were still right on his tail, lights flashing, sirens blaring, but they knew they had their hands full with a driver like him. So their plan was to trap him. One cop car followed him into the alley while the other entered from the opposite end. Toby immediately slammed on the brakes and began backing up. Oh boy, Toby said, throwing the Mustang in reverse. This might get interesting. Meanwhile, Finn was inside the Beast, pulling on some of Joe's extra clothes. Suddenly, Benny's voice came blasting through the supply truck's two-way radio. Listen up, guys, Benny began. I almost borrowed a Apache chopper from the Great Lakes Air Base, but Colonel Gattens was sweating me hard. Joe Peck just rolled his eyes. Here we go again, he said. Finn yelled into the microphone. Enough with the Apache helicopter bullshit. Give it a fucking rest. I'm not talking to you, Finsky, Benny yelled back. Roger that, liar one, Finn retorted. Benny's voice went up a notch. Finn, you've been back in the crew for 10 minutes and you're already up my skirts talking shit, the pilot scolded him. You're going to rue the day you started calling me that. Finn laughed. Rue the day, he asked. What? Did you go to college all of a sudden? That's an ignorant thing to say, Benny shot back. God, are you ignorant. Toby and Julia were listening to the chatter between the crewmates, all while the Mustang was furiously going down the alley in reverse. Julia couldn't believe what she was hearing. Are you kidding me? She said to Toby. Are these guys still in elementary school? Toby smiled as he finally backed out of the alley at 70 miles per hour and headed up another street, in the wrong direction, of course. It is going to be like this the whole way, Julia asked him.
Would like to
Toby
point out
shrugged.
here that we don't have elementary school in Britain. Not impressed. Not impressed. This is her
don't?
saying, no, we have primary school.
What's that, like, span?
Like 5 to 10.
Okay.
Primary school is also infants and juniors, and then before that is nursery, and then you have secondary school. Which isn't actually high school, but everyone calls it high school because American movies have already ruined our culture. What? Ruined and culture in
So there's
quotes.
just primary and secondary?
Yeah.
Okay. Why isn't it high school? What's different about it?
It's just called secondary school.
Okay.
But I'm saying people call it high school because we've watched enough
Is it
American
separated by
films.
grades, like 1 to 12? Or?
Years.
Okay.
You got year
How many
one.
years?
Okay. Okay. Reception year 1 and 2 are infant school. 3 to 6 junior. That together makes up primary, and secondary is 7 to 13.
Okay.
Which
so it all equivocates pretty well.
Yeah, and 7 to 13. Then there's Key Stage 3, which is the first 3 years. Then there's GCSEs, which is the second 2, and then there's college, which is the final 2 years of high school, essentially. But it's sixth form.
That's the part that's weird.
It's sixth form college. It's weird. It's the whole weird. Britain's weird. Anyway.
I mean, school's broken no matter where you go. So
It's true.
Don't worry about it. It's not like ours is any better.
Did she say math earlier in the book, or was that us joking about how she wouldn't say math earlier in the book?
She wouldn't. We joked that she wouldn't have said math.
Okay, that's not that level, but it kind of is. Unless
Yeah.
you spent a lot of time in America. Let's carry on this amazing piece of literary work. I hate it, please. Why?
Toby just shrugged as he upshifted and laid on the accelerator. We've all known each other for a very long time, he told her. That's a yes then, she huffed. Benny's voice interrupted them. Beauty, this is Maverick, he began. The Motown Mounties really want to speak with you. Come back. Toby was maneuvering fiercely now, swerving around the oncoming traffic, while noticing that a third police cruiser had joined the chase. Just as he was about to hit one civilian car head-on, he downshifted and hit the brakes and the gas all at the same time. The result was a perfect reverse 270-degree turn. When the smoke cleared, he found himself facing the right way down Michigan Avenue. He laid down the hammer again, taking off like a rocket. This caused the first cruiser to collide with the second one, putting both out of action. The third one, though, kept up the pursuit. Toby did another hard drift and wound up in the city's waterfront district. He was now topping 100 miles per hour, but the third police car was gaining on him. Up in the newscopter, Benny heard another voice coming on the radio. It was distinctly female. Romeo, stand by, it said. Standing by, Benny said with some uncertainty. He had moved the copter's traffic cam off the roadways onto a hot-looking female running along the waterfront park. Just for kicks, he zoomed in. As it turned out, the strange voice was coming from the Channel 4 newsroom. He heard it again. It said, "We go live to Romeo in the Chapter 4 traffic copter. What are we looking at, Romeo?" Benny had replied in typical TV announcer voice. "We're looking good, Beth," he said. "Real good." Then the producer's voice interrupted. "Is that Romeo in that helicopter? What's going on?" At that moment, the copter cam pulled into an extremely tight shot of the jogger's derriere. Immediately, the producer started screaming, "Commercial! Go to commercial!" Benny just laughed. "Hey, Motown, gotta lighten up," he said. Ugh. Derriere, proving again, written by a 40-year-old man.
Yep.
As all this was going on, Toby found himself hurtling towards a huge bridge. Eyes on the road, he told himself aloud. Benny saw the long span at the same time. "Whoa, I think that's the Ambassador Bridge," he yelled, "and it's filled with the bumper-to-bumper." He pulled back on the copter's controls, putting the machine into a near hover. "Toby, brother," he called down to the Mustang, "it's going to take a 3-lane grasshopper to disappear. Do you copy?" Toby was quick to reply. "I copy." "Okay," Benny said. "On my count then. 3, 2, 1. The Mustang hit the I-375 on-ramp with tremendous speed, this despite lots of traffic everywhere and a cop car, a siren wailing right behind him. Julia took her usual crash position and braced for impact. "What's a grasshopper?" she yelled over at Toby. Toby did not have time for to answer. He jerked the speeding car into the on-ramp's fast lane. Up ahead, but getting closer very quickly, there was a huge embankment just before the entrance to the bridge itself. "You might want to close your eyes," Toby warned her. Julia held on tighter if that was possible. "Oh my God," she screamed. "It's worse than bus, bus, bus." Toby's voice came on the radio. "Aim for that light pole," he told Toby, "then spread your wings." Those words, Toby jerked the car out of the fast lane and up the embankment toward the light pole. He put the gas pedal to the floor, and suddenly they were airborne. Julia's eyes nearly fell out of her head. They were flying over 3 lanes of traffic, the Mustang's tires nearly clipping the roofs of the cars below her. But before she had a chance to scream again or say anything else, they were suddenly back down, landing with a resounding thump on the slope of a church parking lot. Without missing a beat, Toby drifted violently across the grass, across the lot, and onto another street. He straightened out the Mustang and downshifted for more RPM. Then he turned to look at Julia, expecting her to be in a state of shock or worse, but she was completely opposite of how Toby thought she'd be. She wasn't hurt or stunned or nauseous. Instead, she was laughing hysterically. We're alive, she screamed with pure joy. "Amazing! You are amazing!" Toby almost started laughing himself. Her laugh was sweet and funny and nearly contagious.
We never got any of that in the in the film didn't get let into how much he wanted to not brood as he brooded.
It's what I do. It's what I do, he said in perfect deadpan. Great. The Mustang roared down the street at extremely high speed, heading away from Motor City. High above, Benny had been looking down on the display of incredible extreme driving and admiring Toby's out-of-this-world talent. But now he had to go. Time's up in this bird, he radioed down to Toby. Talk soon, bro. But Detroit wasn't giving up so easy. One of the pursuing cops was especially pissed off. His patrol car had been involved in the accident that Toby's wild driving had caused, and that made him mad. He was now burning up his radio. All units be advised, the cop said. Heavily modified silver Ford Mustang last seen on I-375 heading westbound. Contact state police for air support. That's not like an especially heinous thing to say. Like, that's just cop being a cop.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm confused.
Gonna take another drink. We're at that chapter break again. The best part of this is all these scenes are like separate chapters.
Oh, great. Okay.
I feel like this half of the book's going way faster than the first half, where it's just filler backstory bullshit.
Well, because you can clearly tell that he wrote that first chapter with the train.
Yeah,
and then realized
Applebee's and the sexing spot.
And then realized, oh wait, I'm gonna hit my word count way. They're gonna be way over the word count. I'm gonna lay off it, and then somehow the pacing just didn't have time to correct the pacing in the editing process.
Detroit Regional Airport was a very busy place this morning. Many commuter planes were taking off and landing. Some small airliners too. The airport's helicopter section was
for describing what an airport is.
Private helicopters as well as TV news choppers were coming and going with great frequency. Court personnel and ground crews were dashing about, servicing the flock of whirlybirds. It was in the middle of this hubbub that Benny managed to land the Channel 4 news copter. He came down hard, the chopper's rotors crying loudly until he mercifully cut the engines. Then he jumped out of the copter and sprinted away unscathed. It took only a minute to get back to his Cessna, which was parked nearby. He climbed in, did his prep sheet, and then went to turn the engine over. But it misfired. 2 loud bangs, and then nothing. He tried again with the same result. God damn, he cursed himself, not wanting to attract any more attention. Why are you being cranky now? Meanwhile, out of sight behind him, a state police helicopter was taking off. It quickly went up to 2,000 feet, beginning its routine traffic patrol, but suddenly its radio came to life. All units be advised, the dispatcher said. Be on lookout for a silver Mustang with New York plates, Alpha Delta Tango 4619er, heading west on I-94. Repeat, silver Mustang heading west on I-94. The pilots acknowledged the call and then turned south, pointing the copter's nose towards the interstate. At the same moment, Toby was roaring down Route I-94, free of pursuing authorities, but he was getting an uneasy feeling. He hit upload on his iPad and tried to call Benny. Liar one, I got a feeling that we're going to have an air bear sniffing our tail soon, he said. This like fake trucker talk is the worst.
The theme in this book is being the worst.
Are you tracking anything like that heading toward I-94? If he spots me, then the game is over. But there was no immediate reply from Benny. Toby radioed the same message again. Finally, Benny's voice came on. I'm still on the ground, Beauty, he replied to Toby. This Motown air is making my bird a little cranky. Toby could hear him urging the Cessna to turn over. Come on, Nellie, Benny was saying. We got things to do. But the engine just wouldn't cooperate, and Benny told him so. This was not good, and Toby knew it. He called the beast. Finn came on the line. He and Joe were also heading west on I-94. Benny's grounded for the moment, Toby told them. And that means we're blind to the air bears. We might have to go to Plan B. Roger, Beauty, Finn answered. Be advised. Plan B adds at least an hour to the trip. We've got no choice, Toby told him. We'll just have to make up the time later. Roger that, Finn said soberly. Beauty, we'll have to go bingo first, Toby said. We need a hot fuel and top-off. Understand, Beauty, Finn replied. Hot fuel and top-off. See you at the bingo point. Once again, Julie was looking at Toby with her quizzical face. What? He asked her. Hot fuel, she asked back. Top off? Bingo? We're fueling without stopping, he told her simply. Really? She replied. That sounds rather well uninspired. But can't you just... rather well inspired, but can't you just say that? Toby actually considered her suggestion. She said, likes the basics, he thought. Oh.
I wish we knew in the film what he actually considered and didn't. What's going on inside his head?
The beast was flying down Route I-94, now about 50 miles west of Detroit. Joe Peck was still at the wheel of the ungainly truck. Finn was in the passenger seat. Somewhere on the highway behind it, but getting closer all the time, was the Shelby Mustang. Joe Peck checked their position via the truck's GPS module and then said to Finn, "Get ready, it's showtime." Finn immediately unbuckled his seatbelt. Then he took a deep breath, opened his door, and began climbing out of the truck, all as it was roaring down the highway at 70 miles per hour. How did a pickup truck get ahead of this Mustang, going like 140 miles an hour?
Don't think. Don't question it.
I feel like it's a valid question.
It is, but there are no answers here.
Hot fuel coming up, Joe Peck said into his iPhone. He looked at the rearview mirror to see the silver Mustang suddenly appear right in back of him. On time, Joe said, and on the money. Using great care and balance, Finn climbed completely out of the door of the speeding truck and was now moving himself along its side panels. It took great effort, but he finally climbed over the panels and fell into the truck's rear bed. Scrambling to the back corner, he dropped the tailgate to give himself more room to maneuver. There was a large gas tank back here with an extra long hose attached. The hose's nozzle was a special design. It looked like the long needle nose of a mosquito. The Mustang moved closer to the beast, its powerful engine drowning out the noise being made by the rest of the traffic on the heavily traveled interstate. Toby carefully maneuvered the Shelby so the supercar's gas intake was right next to the beast's tailgate. Holding this parallel formation, the two vehicles roared along the highway, still going 170 miles an hour. Military planes frequently took on fuel in flight, eliminating the need for them to land any time they were low on gas. It took a lot of practice and training for the military pilots involved to get it right. The Marshall Motors crew was about to attempt the same thing, but while speeding along a highway. It was just as dangerous, though. Toby brought the Mustang close to the beast. He was just inches away now. But even though Finn was leaning way out over the roadway, needle nose, hose in hand, he could not reach the Mustang's gas tank cover. Toby had no choice. He brought the Mustang in even closer to the supply, and Finn tried again. But still, it was no good. Finn just couldn't get close enough to flip the gas cover open. Julie was watching all this with a mixture of horror and fascination. She knew how dangerous it was, as well as all the attention they were attracting. She also knew there was a state police helicopter up there somewhere, and it wouldn't take much for its pilots to spot those shenanigans from 2,000 feet. She knew she had to do something. She suddenly unbuckled her seatbelt. "Where are you going?" Toby yelled over to her. "Helping," she yelled back, "or trying to." Without another word, she put one leg out in the open window and straddled the door for a moment. Then she climbed out. The wind immediately caught her hair and clothes and started whipping them furiously. Toby was very shocked. He had no idea she had a stunt like this in her. All the way out of the car now, Julie stretched as far as she could and was just about to reach the Mustang's gas tank cover. With admirable dexterity, she flipped it open. Throughout all this, Finn was looking at her like she was nuts. He reached out to hold her steady and prevent her from falling. With Finn's support, she was able to twist the gas cap off. Finn immediately hit the needle nose into the fuel tank opening. Once it was connected, he hit the pump lever and the fuel started to flow from the beast's holding tank into the Mustang. Julie, meanwhile, reversed her direction and climbed back into the Mustang. She was soon buckled back into her seat. Toby was in total disbelief. "Wow," he said to her, "the hits just keep on coming with you, don't they?" Julie just shrugged good-naturedly. "Don't judge a girl by her Gucci's," she joked. "Her what?" Tony asked innocently. She held up one of her expensive shoes. "High heels," she said, teasing him, then tossing the shoes behind the front seat. "Remember?" "Can't you just say that?" Toby teased her back. "Nice one," she replied with a slight bow of her head. "Touché." Toby quickly got back to business. "Beast, take the shoulder," he radioed to Joe Peck. "I'll go with you." "Roger that," Joe Peck replied. The Beast, with the Mustang still attached by the fuel hose, moved onto the shoulder of the highway's slow lane. They passed an RV like he was standing still and then spotted a sign that read, "Parker Road South, next exit." Julie was now watching the ongoing refueling operation out the window. She knew timing was an important element here. She gave Finn the faster sign. He replied by holding up his hand, indicating her to wait. Finn was closely watching the gas pump gauge. He waited a few more seconds. It was crucial that the Mustang got every last drop of fuel he could give it. Then he finally flipped the lever off. He yanked the needle nose hose out of the fuel spout and gave Julie a thumbs up. She returned the gesture, then yelled over to Toby, "We're clear." That's all Toby needed to hear. He upshifted, then punched the gas pedal, and the Mustang rocketed ahead as if it had afterburners. "You see," he said to Julia, "that was easy." "Yes, indeed," she replied in her best Cockney accent. "And so is brain surgery."
Wow. What?
How do British people feel about Cockney accents? Like, is that a thing you affect randomly to be goofy? Like, it doesn't sound like it, right? Like, that's not
No,
a real...
but she is... Okay, so her in the film Imogen Poots putting on not an actual Cockney accent, but essentially the same area, modern day accent. She's basically Rose Tyler. who has been called Cockney on occasion. So, I assume he's describing that, or he's just being the
That's
worst.
not Cockney. Like, I know enough to know that's not Cockney.
I know, but it's the same area Cockney comes from, but today, it's a standard South London accent that she's going through.
Okay.
But I doubt the book actually is dealing with any nuance in terms of what it... I assume she means she's putting on a Cockney accent.
It was here that the two... Okay. It was here that the two vehicles split up. The Beast continued driving west on I-94. Toby roared off the highway at the Parker Road South exit and down a secondary road. Toby called the Beast. Thanks, boys. Plan B is a go-ahead. Beauty is now a redneck. Roger, Joe Peck replied. Beast loves a redneck. Julie figured this out quickly. Redneck, she said. We're heading south? Impressive, Toby replied. She smiled. It's not a very tricky code, Toby, she told him. Truth be told. Back in the Beast, Finn returned to the truck's cab, reversing the same way he had gone out. He was wearing a huge smile. That was more fun than I'd had in a long time, he told Joe. Joe took this as his cue to put the hammer down, upshift, and accelerate. Their on-the-fly refueling mission was done. Welcome back, he told Finn. A moment later, they both heard a roaring sound. Before either could react, the Michigan State Police helicopter went over on top of the Beast. Finn was quickly on the radio. Liar 1, he called. Are you airborne yet? Come in. Finally, Benny's voice came through the speaker. Just got up after spanking my engine for a while, he reported. I'll be headed your direction at top speed. Well, you can slow down because you just missed all the drama, Finn said. We did the bingo right under the Air Bear's nose. Benny laughed. I'm sorry I missed it, he said. But you have to admit, it was more fun that way, right? Maybe from where you're sitting, Finn told him. Beauty is on plan B, but we'd still like eyes on that Air Bear. Benny scanned the horizon and soon picked up a set of lights about 2 miles away. It was the state police helicopter, but it was turning. As Benny watched, the helicopter did a long loop and headed east, back in the direction of Detroit. I see your Air Bear, Benny reported, and he's heading back home to Mama. Liar 1, Roger. This is good news, Liar 1, Finn said, cracking up Joe in the process. By the way, Liar 1, what's your 20? Flat-heading you bitch, Benny replied quickly. The next instant, the Cessna came out of nowhere and brutally buzzed the Beast, clearing it by just a few feet. Finn and Joe Peck ducked almost to the floorboards. It happened so quick and so unexpectedly. They saw the bottom of the Cessna fill their windshield before it flew off again. It had been very close. Finn barked at Benny. Jesus Christ, you insane? You haven't changed a bit, you fucking Nimrod. Benny came back at him immediately. I don't know who Nimrod is, he said, but just keep this in mind unless you want to piss your drawers again. My handle is Maverick. I like that he ad-libbed that Nimrod sounded like someone from the 50s in the movie.
Yep.
Which doesn't make any sense at all.
No, it is not even a joke based in anything. It's just a thing that he clearly thought of at the moment. In the moment thinking it was funny. It was pretty great. It was pretty dumb.
For anyone who wants to know, Nimrod was the great-grandson of Noah, like from the Bible Noah.
No,
and was...
Why is that an insult then?
And he was depicted in Divine Comedy as a giant that guarded one of the gates of hell. He was tricked by.
Neither of those are what I think of when someone is called a Nimrod.
I'm trying to think of why he was described as why it became an insult, but I don't actually really know.
Maybe.
Oh, okay. He was the leader of the tribe who built the Tower of Babel.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. And so Nimrod means stupid because he was one of the ones who was struck dumb and couldn't speak after God destroyed that or whatever.
I thought it was just going to be because he made a dumb decision, not because God... I mean, Old Testament. Of course he did. Of course he did. Sorry.
Noah coming out this month. Very excited.
Yes!
I'm not even ironically excited.
Oh no, that movie's gonna be great. I've heard some of the stuff in interviews. I saw a quote with Aronofsky saying that he was disappointed that they're holding all the weird stuff out of trailers. So that makes me excited.
Yeah. I'm expecting El Shaddai in the movie in points. I hope.
No,
giant half angel beings.
There's a game that could be adapted for a movie.
Yeah. It's chapter 17. Finally off the hustle and bustle of the interstate, the Mustang was rocketing down a two-lane...
No, you can't begin 2 chapters in a row describing the hustle and bustle of a thing. Fuck you, writer. Fuck you.
It was rocketing down a 2-lane back road, passing vast stretches of farmland filled with crops, watering holes, and farm equipment. Julia was beginning to get a handle on how to be a right-seater. She'd started following police communications with a laser jammer dialed in. Using this device, which is built into the dashboard of the Mustang, it was possible to jam signals emanating from a radar gun.
Oh, a right-seater!
Under the right conditions, the Mustang could become as invisible as a stealth fighter, as invisible as a muscle car going 120 miles per hour down a 2-lane road.
Under the right conditions in which no one is looking at it or in 1,000 miles, it could be.
A cop does not need a radar gun to know that that car is doing something illegal.
It's true. I also took me, since I've seen the movie, to actually get what she meant by in the right. You've never been a right-seater before. I was very confused by that. I thought it was a joke about how we drive on the different side of the road in England.
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
not.
But she broke her focus on the high-tech anti-detection equipment when she felt Toby staring at her. She locked eyes with him and realized something surprising just by the way he was looking at her. Toby was smitten with her. She could see it all over his face. What? She asked him coyly. Are you going to say something to me? Huh, no, Toby replied awkwardly. Nothing important. Come on, she coaxed him. It's okay. He thought for a moment, then asked, I guess I was wondering, how did you get involved in all this? The cars, the glamour. She laughed. The glamour? She read out her hands to indicate the rural setting that they were driving through. I'm not sure the word glamour applies at the moment, she added. But if you want to know how I got here from there, well, I'll tell you. But try not to fall asleep at the wheel. I promise, he said. Okay, she said with a sigh. I grew up in England, obviously. My parents were hippies. Damn, my bloody grandparents were hippies. They were all very artistic and crunchy and organic. Or at least they thought they were. There was always 60s music playing in our house when I was a kid. I was named after John Lennon's mother, I was raised on granola and yogurt, and we only drink rainwater or melted snow. To this day, I can't stomach yogurt, and I think granola is revolting. It's like chewing gravel, isn't it? I hear you, Toby replied. She went on. As you can imagine, I rebelled against all that as soon as I was old enough to realize that I could. I insisted that I go to a strict girls' boarding school. My goal was to learn all about the business and mathematics and numbers and then go to work for the biggest mega corporation on the planet. All this just to toss off my parents. But then a strange thing happened. I started doodling in class one day. Growing bored, you see. And that progressed to doing drawings, and then I realized I had some artistic talent in me too. I had inherited it quite to my surprise. But for some reason I began drawing cars, race cars, Bentleys, Lambos. I could see the artistic qualities in their designs. By the time I left boarding school, I was hooked. I went to university, took half business courses and half art classes, and when I got out, I went into the world of expensive cars, evaluating them, putting a price tag on them.
Where did she go to university?
I don't know. Not just for their performance, but also for their beauty. I did it because it's what I loved, which is exactly why my parents and their parents did what they did. I had to grow up a bit to understand that. Then I met Ingram and... She looked out the window of the speeding Mustang, studying the American landscape going by in a blur. Just how I got here to this point, she asked herself? I'm not quite sure yet. Suddenly the police radio began squawking. The police report was disturbing, though. All units be advised, the dispatcher said. Ford Mustang, New York plate Alpha Delta Tango 4619er. Last seen headed west on I-94. Believed to be driven by one Toby Marshall. Mike Alpha, Romeo Sierra, Hotel. They're just spelling Marshall. I'm not going to do this. Wanted on parole, violation, and possible grand theft auto. Spotted traveling with a blonde female, identity unknown. See what I mean, she said. Blonde female, identity unknown. I'm just one step away from being a wanted woman. Toby shook his head in disgust. Well, they know who I am now, he said. But I guess that was just a matter of time. If it was, you sped it up with your little stunt back in Detroit, Julia told him. That had to be done, Tony replied. Just to get Finn back in the fold, she asked. No, not just that, he answered. They were suddenly approaching an intersection, traveling at 100 miles per hour. Suddenly, Toby, I keep calling him Tony. Toby ripped a hard right, and an instant later they were traveling on Highway 12 West. That's when the Monarch chirp sounded inside the Mustang. This meant the Underground Racing Show's private streaming website was coming on live. Monarch's voice crackled out of the speaker. I'm looking at footage of a car that's not supposed to exist, he began in his usual droll way. The trolls are lighting up my inbox, people telling me this is the car that Ford and Shelby was building when Carol died. Just like him, it's a ghost. While he was saying this, the Monarch began showing video of Toby's stunt in Detroit in front of Finn's office building. The footage had been taken on Toby's POV camera and included aerial shots from Benny's helicopter escapade as well. Toby and Benny had uploaded the footage practically as it was happening. and it eventually found its way to the underground racing show. Monarch went on, no one's ever really seen this car. No one with a bank account under 100 million, that is, but it's gorgeous. Ford Motor Company birthed this baby, and I'll be damned if it's not the finest Mustang I've ever seen. But here's the real news flash. Tobey Maguire is driving this cherry to the gods.
What?
Yes, the same Toby Marshall who was tearing it up around Mount Kisco 2 years ago.
No.
I bow to
Matt,
Ford
wait.
and Shelby for...
Hang on a second. Did you mean to say Tobey Maguire? Did you actually mean to say
Did I say that? Man, look, this book is wearing me down. That's me. That's on me. Oh. Oh, Christ. My apologies.
Okay, how much longer do we have today? Because Jesus Christ, this book.
Like 20 pages.
Okay, we'll be fine.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Wait, we've got 20... How much of the movie... Have they even at the halfway point yet?
Yeah, maybe. About. They're nearing it. I bow to Ford and Shelley for conceiving such a car, and I salute Toby Marshall for what he's doing behind the wheel. As Monarch spoke, he continued showing footage of Toby's antics in Detroit, including him rocketing away from Finn's office with the Motor City Police hot in pursuit. Julia smiled and nodded in Toby's direction. She understood now, and she had to give him his props. Obviously, he thought through every detail of his bold plan. On the other end of the country, Dino was listening to the Monarch's elevation of Toby to one of the best drivers in America, and though he wasn't showing it, he was furious. He was sitting inside the office of his company's new customizing garage in California. The place was state-of-the-art, and of course, it was enormous. It had 12 lifts, banks of the latest diagnostic equipment, and top-of-the-line computers everywhere. The tools alone cost several $100,000, yet the floor was waxed, so clean you could eat off of it. The place looked more like his dealership's showroom next door than a customizing shop. The sign above the door identified it as Dino Brewster Motors. The office itself was well organized as the workshop beyond, with a lot more good taste. This was evidence that Anita had had a hand in its design. She was sitting across from Dino at the moment, watching the footage Monarch was displaying and following along on her laptop. The podcast host raged on. My people, it's reigning De Leon champ Dino Brewster on the line and with us right now. Dino Bambino, Fee-Fi Fofino. You need to see what I'm seeing. It's aerial footage, my man. I don't know who's shooting it, but Toby Marshall is flying across the country right now, cops in tow, in a Phantom Ford that would make your bowels loose. Dino just laughed. Toby Marshall's doing something stupid again, he asked. Is that what you're saying? Did we all forget this guy just got out of prison for manslaughter? Monarch replied, accidents happen in racing, Dino Bambino. And that car he's driving is one of a kind. I know it's one of a kind, Dino said defiantly, because I'm the one who put that car in Toby's hands. The Mustang was still tearing down Highway 12 at that moment. Its current speed was near 120 miles per hour and climbing. Toby and Julia were closely following Monarch's conversation with Dino. Toby in particular was taking it all in, staring straight ahead, but increasing his speed to more aggressive limits. It didn't take a shrink to tell that Dino's comments were having an effect on him. Suddenly, Julia spotted two cars ahead, driving side by side, taking up both lanes of the highway. She sensed a problem right away. Lane 4, she said simply, but Toby didn't respond. He was still accelerating and getting closer to the pair of dawdling cars. Lane 1? She asked. Still, Toby stayed mute. Monarch's show was continuing, providing a strange soundtrack for the suddenly growing drama inside the Mustang. Dino's voice fell out of the speaker again. Toby Marshall is simply reckless behind the wheel, he said in no uncertain terms. That's just about the only thing he's famous for. As if to prove Dino's point, Toby refused to change lanes. Instead, he punched the gas pedal, accelerated tremendously, and split the two lower cars at an ungodly speed. Julie was still getting used to this sort of thing by now. Still, she said to him, Do you know how fully loaded commercial airliner takes flight at 170 miles an hour? Toby seemed unimpressed. Dino's words were still burning in his ears. So, he replied. So, we were just doing 185, she said, pointing to the speedometer. Just thought you'd enjoy that fun fact. Meanwhile, Monarch was having a hard time believing what Dino was trying to sell. You're worried about reckless driving, he asked Dino directly. You, the same Dino Bambino who got thrown out of the Indy for wrecking guys under a caution flag? Methinks you protest too much, Fee-Fi Fofino.
He never called him Fee-Fi Fofino, did he?
I wish. No.
Because I would have remembered that.
What Dino said next shocked Monarch's audience, including Toby and Julia. If that's his plan, I don't want to see Toby Marshall at the De Leon, Dino said emphatically. Matter of fact, I'm willing to give my Lambo Elemento away to anyone who can stop him. Monarch cut in. Now wait a second, Dino, he said. I know you're rich, but that's insane. You're going to give someone your Elemento? That car is one of 3 in the world. You're just going to give it to anybody who stops Toby Marshall? Do you realize that means you'll lose your place at this year's race? Nina was staring intently at Dino as he was going back and forth with Monarch. She was extremely puzzled and shocked at her boyfriend's bizarre offer. Why would Dino want to give up his spot in the De Leon just to stop Toby? At this moment, Dino glanced out his office window and into the shop beyond. 2 men in suits had entered the garage. They looked like they were right out of a mobster movie, not a monster movie. That would have been way better. One of them was Paulie Nuts Lawrence. He was the other investor that Dino had mentioned at dinner not long before. Lawrence was talking to Big Al, Dino's obese and sweaty garage manager. After a brief conversation, Big Al headed toward Dino's office, obviously bearing some sort of message. Dino stood up immediately, his inflammatory conversation with Monarch forgotten for the moment. He knew these guys needed his immediate attention. Anita had spotted them too. She studied them through the office window as Big Al came in. Dino held up his hand, signal for Big Al to keep his mouth shut for the moment. He got back to Monarch. Yes, that's right, Dino said. I'm posting a picture of that Mustang now so everyone knows what they're looking for. Considered a bounty on Toby Marshall's head. With that, Dino hit upload, then walked out from behind the desk to talk to Big Al. That douchebag out there wants to talk to you, Big Al told Dino. But Anita wanted to talk to Dino first. You realize you just put a $3 million bounty on Toby, don't you? She asked in disbelief. Why are you doing this? He killed your brother, Anita, Dino replied harshly. I'm doing this for you. Anita was so floored by this response she couldn't speak for a moment. But Dino didn't notice. He was too focused on the men in suits. He put on his best charming face, then walked out into the garage to meet them. Why wasn't that line in the movie?
Because then it would have made, like, actual sense regarding his character motivation.
Blah. Blah.
Race west to the
Second, I need to take a drink. You talk for a second. I need to blow my nose again. Very congested.
It's a very bad movie. And we're going to say, it's not good in that regard. You have no idea what Dino's plan is the entire time. He is a terrible villain. In terms of how you define what a good villain is, they do the complete opposite thing at every turn. There's no point where they actually make you feel like... even when he actually does the bad thing and kills Little Pete and doesn't go back for him. They don't even do that well. Like, they kind of gloss over that, and it's mostly about Aaron Paul finding his body, and at no point do they actually make you feel anything towards Dino, thus ruining the entire core of the movie. It's dumb.
This is the feedback of an actual movie writer. He went to school for it, folks.
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, right, yeah. I'm not an actual movie writer. I did go to school for it, but that...
Script Dr. Jackson Tyler.
It's true. I also disagree with most of my lessons at school, so take that for what you will. I know nothing.
I think that means that you know more than you know. You know what... I feel like that's a good sign.
I feel like it's a good sign. I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Back on Highway 12, Toby and Julie were still glued to Monarch's show, hanging on his every word. Oh, the drama, Monarch bellowed. I've got star-crossed lovers doing 150 across the country. Make that 180, Julia interjected. And now, Monarch went on, the reigning De Leon champ, Dino Brewster, just painted a huge bullseye on their backs. Julia took a moment to look over at Toby, but he was still expressionless and staring straight ahead. Monarch was going non-stop. Yes, Christmas has come to us early, my little wingnuts, he said with a laugh. Racing is art, but racing with passion is high art.
Super hot.
I can feel the love and vengeance and motor oil swirling together out there. You heard it and it bears repeating. Dino Brewster's offering a Lamborghini Elemento to anyone who brings him that Mustang. And my math says that incredible car just left Michigan. This Toby Marshall's a marked man. We've got supernatural Mustangs and personal vendettas. I have no idea what's going on out there, but I know I love it. On a particularly empty stretch of Highway 12, a Michigan State Trooper was driving east. The Shelby Mustang was still headed west on the other side of the divided highway. The trooper saw the supercar coming and his dash radar was already activated, but strangely, no miles per hour number showed up on his screen. It was like the Mustang was invisible, and in a way, it was. Julie was negating the cop's radar with the laser jammer, turning the Mustang into true stealth. Into a true stealth. That's not what...
There's no way. There's no way it calls it a true stealth.
turning the Mustang into a true stealth.
It full stop.
Period. Yeah. Next line is a new paragraph.
What? Who wrote this?
Brian Kelleher.
Thanks.
Once by the Cobb, Julia synced into Monarch's stream. Monarch, she spoke into the mic. This is the blonde female sitting right next to Toby Marshall. Monarch was immediately delighted. On the air right now is a blonde bird from Britain, he announced. He quickly switched to a bad British accent. Pip, pip, cheerio, a little bird who claims to be sitting next to Toby Marshall in that Mustang. Having tea, are you, love? But Toby was less than thrilled that Julia had opened a link to Monarch. Can you pay attention, he asked her. I need you. But Julia was all but ignoring him, though. No, she replied. At that moment, Toby spotted a truck dead ahead. He applied the brakes and downshifted. Smoothly moving across the highway lanes, he was soon driving on the shoulder, where he upshifted and accelerated past the truck like it was standing still. How many times has that phrase been used in this book? Like 100? 150?
Yeah, pretty much. Every week. At least 6
You've been on a
times.
pause screen for like a minute.
I know. I had to do a thing.
Okay. Don't pay you to sit on a pause screen.
You don't pay me at all. Isn't that dialogue not in this book at some point?
No.
Should be.
Just beyond, he spotted a sign welcoming them to Indiana. Beyond that was an on-ramp for Interstate I-80 West. With the flick of his wrist, Toby jumped on the on-ramp at 160 miles per hour. A second later, he was on I-80 West itself. Finally, they were back on the interstate where they belonged. Julia, meanwhile, was still on the line to Monarch's show. There were 3 cars in that race the night little Pete died, she told him in his audience. That was a fact. For anyone who believes that Toby was responsible for the death of Pete, well, ask yourself this. Why would he jump parole in New York, knowing he could get rearrested and do serious time unless he is innocent and hell-bent on righting a wrong? He did his time, paid his debt, so why would he risk it? When you talk to Dino again, you should ask him. There was a long moment of silence. Then Toby said to her, "Thank you." "You're welcome," she replied. Another moment of silence. Then Monarch came on again. "Well, I'm moved," he said. "This might be a first for me. My heart of stone just softened." Then Monarch launched into his bad British accent again. "I believe you," he said, "you crazed little tart. I think you're bloody serious. I really do." Monarch switched back to his normal voice. "And I hear you," he went on, "and I know that the two of you are flying across country at killer speeds to prove something. Sounds like a deep rivalry, Toby Marshall versus Dino Brewster. I ain't got a dog in this fight, but I flat out love the fight. Born to run, baby, you two kids tearing up the American asphalt." Monarch stopped for another moment. He was thinking. "You know what?" he went on again. "Tell Toby Marshall I say, welcome to Daily On. Toby, old boy, if you can get here in one piece, I'm happy to have you on the line with us. I have spoken. Good night, little bird. Pleasant dreams."
I feel like book Monarch is far more dumb than movie Monarch.
Yep.
And this is disappointing me greatly. Because, come on. Fee Fi Fo Fino, what?
Among many listening to Monarch's show was the street racer known as the Flyin' Hawaiian.
Shut it down, damn.
He was a large, brutish man with long, greasy hair braided into long pigtails. He was in a shop near LA working on his 4x4 pre-runner. These kinds of vehicles had gotten their start when people began modifying simple Toyota two-wheel drive trucks to run in off-road races, usually through the desert. The idea grew until just about any small truck with big wheels and off-road modifications was called a pre-runner. Again, Wikipedia dropped. The Hawaiian was watching Monarch's broadcast on the flat-screen TV mounted to the wall of his less-than-organized garage. It was the opposite of Dino's place. Messy, smelly, full of parts scattered everywhere. The place fit its owner. Drinking a beer and smoking a blunt, the Flyin' Hawaiian was enthralled by what the Monarch was saying. He was, in some ways, the anti-Toby.
Man!
He was, in some ways, the anti-Toby!
What? I thought Dino already was the anti-Toby. I thought the whole point of this book and film is that Dino and Toby are opposite. Ugh.
He'd done time in prison for assault, but he had been the head of a gang who beat up new meat. He dealt drugs, chopped stolen cars, and even sold illegal guns in Mexico. His conscience had never been his guide. He was the ultimate bully, but also the ultimate coward. Never known for taking on an opponent mano a mano, he never fought a fair fight in his life, and he wasn't about to start anytime soon. This is the most amazing introduction for someone who doesn't exist in the movie except for being a body to blow up.
I mean, he's probably one of the people in the cast.
Oh, I know, but like he has like no lines. Like, you know, he shows up with a shotgun for like 5 minutes.
And I assume they must have filmed this, right? Because they must have at some point in the script it would have said, there's a guy watching this, listening to Monarch's words. And they would have cut
Maybe.
that out.
Yeah, I bet that didn't even get filmed. I bet that was maybe in like an early draft.
I don't know, I felt... The fact that that prayer is in a trailer makes me feel like
Yeah, that's
there
really
are
baffling.
two
Really
versions of this movie. Like, how much of this film did they shoot? I think everything in this book could be
God,
filmed.
if only. If only. There's no Machete Man gang. Come on.
Okay, yes. No, that was always a cut from before to after. But holy shit, if not.
And that's it, my people, Monarch said, wrapping up the show. De Leon is full, but Dino Brewster's Lambo and Lamento is still in play. And that means his spot in the race is also up for grabs. If you want it, you're going to have to chase down that Super Mustang to get it. It's the race before the race. Monarch's final words of the evening were for the passengers of the Super Mustang. And this is for Toby Marshall, he concluded. I will text you the exact details of our meeting place for the De Leon, but remember, this requires honor among thieves, no snitching. Until then, run, Toby, run. No sooner had the Monarch signed off than Benny was on the radio. The Mustang was roaring along I-80 at 150 miles per hour. The sun was setting in front of them. Beauty, he began, I've been listening in. Congrats on the wild card ticket to the rodeo. The route is clear to the Nebraska border. Darkness is upon us. The island sky will be shut down for a while. I'm going to leapfrog ahead and meet you at the record breaker. Okay, roger that, Toby replied, and thanks. Back in Dino's office, Anita closed her laptop as soon as Monarch's show ended. She continued watching Dino and the mysterious men in suits out in the garage. She thought a moment, then got up and went around to Dino's desk. She sat down at his laptop and started punching keys. She quickly became lost in what she was reading. Suddenly, it doesn't mean anything! If I sit down on the computer and start punching keys and get enthralled by what I'm reading, what did I just do? I just Googled something stupid, probably, right?
You loaded up Twitter.
It doesn't describe her clicking the mysterious folder marked personal expenses that he keeps on his desktop. Right under the only other folder marked business expenses.
Helpfully, this one is in literally almost pretty much a folder named crime I have done.
Why would he keep it anyway?
It's like he's like, you know, it's his...
Not only does he keep it, like, it'd be fine if he kept it, like, fixed it up and removed all the evidence, but no, he just keeps it, like, right off the road from where he murdered a man.
Dino is the biggest non-character to ever... I don't even know how this happened.
Suddenly a voice interrupted her. What are you doing? She looked up to see Dino reach across the desk and slowly close his laptop. Just the way he did this concerned her. There was something threatening about it. I'm just working, she answered, though a bit unsteadily. Dino's expression turned very sinister at her reply, but he said no more. 18. Last chapter of the day.
Okay, how long is this chapter?
Like 9 pages.
How... Now they're about halfway through the film.
Yeah.
Jesus. Carry on. Let's get through the Nebraskan gas station.
Yep, at my home state.
Represent.
Welcome to Nebraska. There is no place like Nebraska, dear old Nebraska. It's the school fight song, actually.
Okay.
It was a small victory when the Mustang crossed the state line in Nebraska. Not only did Toby feel good about leaving Michigan and Indiana behind, not to mention Illinois and Iowa. Well, you just did. But in his mind, making Nebraska meant that they were halfway to their goal to California. In other words, it was all downhill from here. It's not true. There's like the Rocky Mountains coming up. Like, by definition, not all downhill.
The entire
the
USA isn't one big hill.
Shortly into the Cornhusker State, a large neon sign announced an upcoming truck stop. It was late at night by now. They'd been driving virtually non-stop. It was time for a break. Toby pulled into the rest stop, reducing his speed drastically in order to make an entranceway. The place was full of fuel pumps for both trucks and cars, plus a diner and a Quick Mart. It was for good reason that this rest stop was open 24 hours a day. There were people moving about and a fair amount of activity. Toby brought the Mustang to a stop and jumped out. He stretched mightily and started pumping high grade into the Mustang's nearly depleted gas tank. Meanwhile, Julia headed for the bathroom. Please hustle, Toby called after her. We're just 2 hours behind schedule, and by the way, keep it low key. Monarch just made you famous, okay? Got it, Julia replied, jogging to the Quick Mart. Trust me, I'll be fast. The refueling went quickly, but just as Toby finished up, a Nebraska State Police car pulled into the truck stop. Toby coolly ducked down. Is that what they're going to describe his crazy Batman crouch? Which is maybe the most hilarious image in that movie? Is him, like, suddenly just dropping to one knee.
And then
Did you laugh at that? Because I laughed at
I
that.
laughed at that. And then when, I don't know how, I assume in the book it's going to describe Imogen Poots' duck as amazing as it is in the film. Because that was pretty great.
Like Scott Pilgrim-esque, like, disappearing.
Yeah. Because she keeps going, like it's almost as if the scene is written as she actually got away, but she played it in just the most perfect. Oh, she was quite clearly seen right there.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay, where was I? Toby coolly ducked down, then scurried to the owner of the pickup, to the cover of a pickup truck parked in the adjacent gas bay. Once hidden, he pulled out his cell phone and was slowly sliding his way up to the outer wall of the pickup truck. But it was only when he peeked into the truck's bed that he realized a huge dog was waiting there, attached to a chain. The animal lunged at him, snarling, teeth bared and barking loudly. The commotion was loud enough to attract the attention of the state trooper. The trooper stopped and looked in the dog's direction. He thought a moment, contemplating whether he should walk over to the pickup, but after seeing the dog was chained, he decided against it. He headed into the truck stop instead. At the same moment, Julia walked out of the restroom where she had just changed her clothes. She was casually spritzing some expensive perfume on as she was headed for the front door. That's when she spotted the trooper. She calmly slowed her gait, redirecting her path to an aisle further away from him. Working behind the cash register was a bored teenage waitress, blowing bubbles with her chewing gum. The trooper walked up to her and said 2 words, coffee, black. It was way better in the movie, for the record, where she asked him coffee or sugar, and he said black, and she rolled her eyes at him.
Yep.
I like that.
I like what she was doing. Hired to play this extra role, giving it her all. It was
Yep,
great.
for her, 1 second in the movie. Yep.
Yeah.
By force of habit, the trooper casually looked up at the truck stop security monitor hanging over the cash register. All 8 of the video feeds were displaying the gas pumps. Glittering like some gigantic jewel on wheels, the silver Mustang was front and center on one of the TV monitors. The trooper quickly changed his order. Make that to go, he told the waitress. Like
How
he was
else
gonna
do you
get a
have
hug.
it in a fucking gas station?
Oh, I was gonna give you one of the nice cups, but okay. God. At that moment, Julia's cell phone began ringing. Not only was it turned on loud enough, but it was blaring the very familiar Michael Jackson Beat It ringtone. What? That's not in the movie. They did not describe Finn's ridiculous ringtone in the office building, which was an actual song that was stupid.
Yeah,
They described this one that obviously they didn't get in the movie because it would cost way too much money and isn't even a good joke.
Well, I don't even get the joke.
I don't know that it's a Michael Jackson ringtone. Oh, look at that. Isn't that funny? That's a song that people remember if you're 40.
Yes, or not and listen to Fall Out Boy.
Oh, sure. Wait, what? Fall Out Boy.
They did a cover. It was pretty popular.
Oh,
I'm
God.
young with the kids. I know these things.
Yeah, you suck.
I do. Hang on, 2 seconds. Keep going. Hang on.
He left. We're never going to do this again. I just want to stay for the record. I'm going to give me a second here while he's out. This was a cool idea, but reading an entire book aloud sucks, especially when the book is not very good. It's fine, I guess, as content for us that wasn't us playing a game together, which we still have yet to do. This is all right. This is a dumb thing. We've had a lot of laughs. I've learned a lot. Learned to love again. He is 47% through his burnout career. He just started this when we started doing this, I think, for the most part. 9 hours. We have hours, have we? Christ. Ugh. That'd be the worst.
Okay, sorry. A thing happened.
Hi, I was just talking to the audience.
What?
I didn't read it at all. I was talking about how we're never doing this again, and I was marveling that you're 47% through this game.
Yeah. 707 miles driven.
Ugh.
We're never doing what again? Reading a novel?
Yes.
Oh, you think?
By the way, 707 miles is still only a third of the way of what Toby drove across country in 2 days.
Do you know how much I don't care?
Just saying. Just saying. Where was I? Oh, Beat It just started playing. That's right.
Yeah.
The trooper turned toward the sound. Meanwhile, Julia ducked behind a candy rack. She answered the phone. It was Toby. Hey, yes, I know, Julia said, whispering into the phone. But then she got the feeling someone was in back of her. She turned around to find the trooper standing right behind her. Excuse me, miss, he said to her. Can I ask you a few questions? Julia slipped the phone into her handbag without disconnecting, and then stood up. Why, of course you can, she replied, trying hard to affect a southern accent. She read his badge. Officer Lejeune? She asked. How can I help you? You live in the area? The trooper asked her. She shook her head. No, sir, she replied. We're in Long Holland. The trooper studied her outfit and thought about her accent. Is that right? He asked skeptically. She laughed, though she was fighting mightily to stay calm. Yes, sir, she replied. Meanwhile, Toby had finally walked around the trooper's car. He was now peering through the store's windows to see what was going on. Inside, he could see the trooper was studying Julia up and down as she was spinning her yarn. You're not traveling in that silver Mustang out there, the trooper asked her. Mustang, she replied. No, sir. Julia took a step toward the front door, but the trooper blocked her path. I'd like to ask you a few more questions, the trooper told her. If you'd step out to my cruiser, it shouldn't take but a minute. Julia froze. She was certain the jig was up. The trooper walked to the front door and held it open for her. She followed him, but just for one step. Then she turned around and bolted toward the back of the store, running as fast as she could. The trooper was stunned, but only for a moment. He took off after her in a snap, chasing her down the hallway. Outside, Toby was hustling back to the Mustang. He was still trying to look inside the store, all while listening to Julie on his phone. Her voice came on in a shrill whisper. Toby, there's a cop in here. I know, Toby told her. Where are you? At that moment, Julia was running frantically down the hallway, the trooper right up on her heels. The hallway ended in a staircase. Julia ran up the stairs, but the trooper was gaining on her. She reached the top of the stairs and ran through an open doorway, slamming the door behind her and locking it. I'm upstairs now, she yelled at Toby over the phone. I'm in the room, like a storage room. Is there a window? Toby asked her quickly. Julia ran to the room's only window. Suddenly, the trooper was banging mightily on the locked door. Yes, there's a window, said Toby, but I'm on the second floor. Toby could hear the trooper yelling in the background. I'm asking you to open this door, miss. Climb out the window, Toby urged Julia. I'll be there. Julia never stopped moving. She climbed atop some boxes as quickly as she could, trying to get out the window. The trooper was pounding on the door with his billy club now. His voice was insistent. Miss, you need to open this door right here. State troopers don't have billy clubs. State troopers have guns. And that's it.
Did not do any research aside from like some car googling.
Buh. It was weird seeing a Nebraska State Trooper car. That's what they look like pulling into that gas station. The movie got it all right. Mm-hmm. Except for that guy was like 20 years too old to be a state trooper. Miss, you need to open this door right now. Then he clicked on his walkie-talkie. This is Unit 7-2, he barked into it. I'm at the truck stop on 80. Any units? The truck stop on 80. Okay, let's give you some Nebraska geography facts, just to like pointing out how terrible this thing is. Interstate 80 is an interstate that runs across the entire country east to west.
All right.
It cuts through Omaha, which is where I live.
Yep.
It goes through the entire state. There are probably like 100 rest stops on I-80 because it's the main thoroughfare through the country, east-west. Like every trucker uses it to get across. So the idea that he could say, I'm at the rest stop on 80 and anyone would know what he's talking about.
Who is he talking to?
Back up? I don't know.
Could he possibly have announced that he was going into a specific truck stop and then said, oh, I'm at the truck stop on 80?
This is Unit 7-2. I'm at the truck stop on 80. Any units in the area, over. He sent out a broad distress call.
Oh! The worst. The worst! This book is terrible. It's written by a madman. I don't know.
I know. I just thought that was funny.
It's good. You're all excited as I'm getting all this British facts in. Luckily, they go to your neck of the woods for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Drop some knowledge yourself.
In a short amount of time, Julie had managed to crawl halfway out the window. With one last push, she popped onto the roof. The That's a weird way of describing that. Then she peeked over the edge and saw it was about a 15-foot drop to the ground. Oh, damn, she growled to herself. Damn, I don't like this. She looked in every direction, but Toby was nowhere in sight. She began running along the roof, frantically looking down into the parking lot while yelling into her phone. Toby, come and get me, she screamed. I'm up on the roof. An instant later, the Mustang appeared right below her. Toby called out the car's window. You gotta jump. Let's go. But there was a problem. I'm afraid of heights, she yelled back down to him. I can't bear to look down. It's not that high, he called back up to her. Just jump. I can't, she bellowed back. I'm terrified of heights. Julia got out of his Mustang and ran to a point right below Julia. Sit on the edge, he called up to her. Hang your feet over, I'll catch you. But Julia was having none of that. She was stamping her feet in furious fear. That's a line. That's a line. That's not what happened, but that would have been great.
Jeez, so this is clearly the bit where they're meant to, you know, their relationship moves to a new level. But Toby's just being the worst to her. Just, oh, it's not that high. Just jump down.
Shit, she yelled, mad at herself and her phobia. But there was nowhere else she could go, nothing else she could do. So she finally crept to the edge of the roof and let her feet dangle over. Now close your eyes and just jump, Toby yelled up to her. On 3, 1, Julia closed her eyes and jumped, a full 2 seconds too early. Toby was not ready, but he caught her anyway, absorbing the impact with his prison-built muscles. He spun them both against the car and then softly to the ground. Great.
Prison-built muscles.
I mean, what they describe makes more sense than his weird fake stunt catch in the movie.
Yeah, in the movie it actually looks like he got it wrong in a different way. In that he did the stunt wrong.
Yep.
Which is kind of great, because they cut between two shots, and it's clearly, it's great. It's pretty great.
Toby recovered quickly, picking up Julia and practically threw her into the Mustang. Then he jumped in and floored it. The Mustang rocketed away in a cloud of smoke and dust. By this time, the trooper had run out of the store. He was still barking into his walkie-talkie. In pursuit of the silver Mustang, he reported to his headquarters, New York plates. Going back to my cruiser now. The trooper jumped into his cruiser and fired up the engine. He put it into gear and punched the gas pedal. The car lurched forward, but only a couple of feet. Then it began bucking wildly from behind. Suddenly there was a great crash. The cruiser's rear axle smashed in the asphalt while the rest of the car kept going. It finally ground to a halt after 20 feet or so. The trooper quickly recovered from the shock and looked in his rearview mirror. That's when he realized the axle had been tethered with a thick chain to a large semi-truck parked in front of the store. The trooper just shook his head. His car was toast, and he knew it. Then he heard another noise. He looked over at the pickup truck he'd seen before to see the large, now unchained dog barking at him maniacally. Not a minute later.
At him, almost winking.
Yep. Not a minute later, Toby and Julia were roaring down the highway again. She kept looking in her side mirror, expecting to see police lights at any moment. Just seconds after their getaway, the iPad crackled with life. It contained a text from Monarch. It read, "The driver's meeting is 8 p.m. at the Intercontinental Hotel in Frisco. Be there square, or you will not get the actual location of the race." Toby looked at Julia, who was still catching her breath from their escape. She had changed into clothes he was more used to, jeans and a t-shirt. But more importantly, he had just seen a side of her that he never knew existed. He was wearing a wide smile. He was really beginning to respect her.
No.
He was beginning to respect her and more. But
I hate everything right now.
"Where is he?" she asked Toby, continuing to check in the mirrors. "He's not coming," he replied confidently. "Really?" she asked. It was almost like she didn't want to believe it. "Trust me," Toby replied. "He'll be stuck back there for a while." "Are you sure?" she asked, needing confirmation. Toby laughed to himself. One word came to mind. Chains. "Oh yeah," he said. "I'm sure." He didn't say that aloud, the chains. He just thought that to himself. In case you didn't know.
Just thinking to himself, chains. Because, you know, he had all the things with the chains in prison.
It's true. It's true, because they shackled him around. He was in 70s exploitation prison.
Oh, the worst. Why is that not in the movie?
Suddenly, Joe Peck's voice crackled through the Mustang. "Beauty," he began. "I'm listening to the trooper chatter, and it sounds like your princess got snagged." "Yeah, it was rough back there," Toby replied with a smirk. "Well, we couldn't have planned it any better," Joe told him. "You're solo now and lighter by 100 pounds. Toby looked at Julia. "Maybe 105, he told Joe, or more." Julia whacked him good-naturedly. "I pity the cops that listen to her go on and on," Toby added. "That girl just does not shut up. Ever." "I copy that, homeboy," Joe replied. "I'm kidding," Toby finally revealed. "I've still got her." It was like a scene from The Great Escape. Over. Joe immediately tried to redeem himself. I always liked you, Julia, he said half seriously. You know that. Thanks, Joe, she said, over and out.
Did she say
Glad they
it as
cut this scene.
perfectly?
This scene's stupid.
This scene is the most fun. But if they did have it, we would have got her going, "Thanks, Joe," which probably would have been great. But
With that, Julia flipped the switch, effectively ending the conversation. You were impressive back there, Toby told her now that they are finally
not, not effectively. I'm not going to let this shit stand anymore. She ended the conversation. When the switch is flipped, the conversation is done.
I'm glad you're pointing them out now because I just can't be bothered.
There's nothing effective about. Oh. Finish
It
this.
makes you wonder. We're going back to Toby talking here. You shut up. Toby's the man.
It's true.
It makes me wonder if you could maybe drive for a few hours. Julia replied happily. For sure, she exclaimed. But do you really think we should stop? Toby didn't reply. Instead, he grabbed her hand and pulled her into his lap. Then he put her hands on the steering wheel, and after enjoying her perfume a little more than he should have, slid over into the passenger seat. The con is yours, my dear, he told her. And in case you forgot, we're going to San Francisco. She gave him a mock salute, still a little flustered that their bodies had been entangled for those quick few seconds. She had no complaints, though. Aye, aye, Captain, she said. Next stop, Frisco.
That
That's
did
it.
not happen.
So she did, like, it was a weird moment where she's sitting in his lap, and it's like, is he just going to stay there? Like, that's really creepy.
Oh, there was the bit where I thought, wait, is he just going to sleep under her for a bit? But that didn't happen, thank God.
And nobody calls it Frisco.
Yeah, that's also a thing. 40-year-old man, writer of the screenplay and the novel here.
Oh, this is the worst.
How long left?
Even Monarch, in the actual text he sends in the movie, it's called San Francisco, because nobody calls it Frisco.
When was Frisco a thing?
Probably in like the 70s. I don't know.
Fair.
The Frisco Kid, that's a thing, right? Isn't that like old Westy kind
What
of
is
bullshit?
the Frisco Kid?
The Frisco Kid. It's like isn't he like a cowboy? I don't know. Let's look this up. The Frisco Kid is a movie from 1979. It's a western with a comedy western starring Gene Wilder as a Polish rabbi traveling to San Francisco, and Harrison Ford is a bank robber who befriends him. Well, I need to see that because that sounds amazing.
Okay, yeah. We have discovered something great this day. How long left, or are we
The
done?
tagline on the movie poster is "The greatest cowboy who ever rode into the Wild West." Ellipses from Poland.
Perfect.
That's amazing. This is the worst.
Do we have any more today?
We're done. We're done, dude.
Oh, thank Christ.
We've got the big race. We've got the hijacking on the road.
Oh, we've got them being run over. We've got him saving
Yep.
her life.
Yep.
We've got the most of the movie. We've got the bit
No,
where all the bits
I mean
happen.
all that stuff actually doesn't take up a lot of screen time. It's
No, you have
amazing how like compressed the end of that movie is.
It's true. But there's a lot of stuff. Is because you have the chase with. I'm going to end the stream.
Okay, wait. Plugs and
Oh,
stuff.
plugs.
We're Abnormal Mapping. You can find us on iTunes. If you search Abnormal
Yes!
Mapping, you can find our
Yes, you
website
can.
at abnormalmapping.wordpress.com. Our Twitters, you can find Jackson at Tylier002. You can find me at LitRock. And we're going to finish this up next week, and then we're going to record a podcast immediately after, because that'll be the worst idea.
This is the greatest idea. What are you talking about? Because it'll be synergy, because we're talking about Crash and I'll crash a lot. It'll be great. Don't worry about it.
Oh.
Ending
Shut this down.
Shut this right down.